Uncivilized Vitality. We're going to do a video this week about uses of your fast rope and my 3 favorite loops. As you notice now, we've got some new background. We're going to be filming now in a location that was shared by another YouTube channel back in the past. There are about 100 episodes. It was called Prosperity by the Pint. I'll write that up here actually. Prosperity by the Pint. This is Bryce Carter from Financial Strategies Group. He used to do a little sit down and share all sorts of insider tips and advice about your financial health and wherewithal. It's great. There's plenty of information there. Each of those was about an hour long and they had a lot of guests, but you should check that out. And they used to film that here in this little cubby. So I thought that was cool that Uncivilized Vitality will do some of our filming here now. The thing we're going to talk about today, and we're going to switch to a tabletop view in a moment, are the first 3 loops you should learn. Right? The first 3 loops. So everyone's always asking me at camp or different things, what are your favorite knots? What are the best knots? What do you recommend? First of all, we distinguish between knots, binds, tying things up with rope, hitches, tying the rope to something, bends, tying 2 ropes together, and then loops. And then there are other special uses of knots, like a prusik or the use of a loop, a closed loop. But the first 3 loops, or the closed loop at the end of a rope that you should learn, these are the first 3. It's going to be the Bowline, the perfection loop. This is awful squeaky. And the figure 8. Now there's lots of ways to tie each of those, but we're going to go to a tabletop view now so you can look down at my hands from the top, so you'll see my right on the right of the screen and my left on the left of the screen, and it should make it a little easier to follow along with the knots at home. But first, before we switch to tabletop, this is our fast rope that we use at UV, and this is how we keep it hanged up. Let's go over that again real quick so that everyone knows, because usually after an event, these fast ropes in the what I call the hideous green, these are the loaners that we hand out for people to practice on and learn. And when you get done with them, I spend a good hour in the gear room sorting them back out. Find the 2 ends, pull that knot down to the pull that rope tight to the other end, join the loop and the 2 free ends. Now you fold it in half, take the double looped end and just tie an overhand knot. But instead of pulling the both ends through, just pull through a bite and tighten it down. Now you've got that little part where my thumb is, you'd clip into your carabiner and hand the rope back in. That's how you hank up your fast rope. All right, let's go down to the table. All right, so here we have the tabletop. We'll tie the 3 loops. I don't think this green's going to show up very good on the gray, so we'll just use the obnoxious green and the red. All right, so let's open up our fast rope. Let's talk about the 2 basic loops first. So we need the ends. Let's get the rest of that off the screen. Here we go. All right, so the first one is going to be the Bowline. So we're going to make an overhand loop. We're going to bring that free end up from the bottom of the loop. It's going to go behind the standing end and then back down through the loop. Pull it tight. So there's my Bowline, okay? Just like that. It's an easy one to remember, several videos on it. So when we make the little hole, the rabbit comes out of the hole, goes behind and back through, behind the tree, and then back through the hole. So there's the Bowline, right? Sometimes called the king of knots or the king of loops. It's easy to tie. You want to make sure you've tied it properly because your tag end will be inside the loop. Right? If you tie this incorrectly, I make the loop. Well, I guess it's not incorrectly, but I come out, I circle around the tree, so over the tree and then behind and down through the loop. Same exact knot. Big difference is I end up with my tag end on the outside of the loop. All right? I can find the other end of my rope. Let's tie that properly. There's my, come up out of the hole, up out of the hole, around the tree, and back down through the hole. And you can see I've tied this one, this bowline, with the tag end inside the loop, and this one with the tag end outside the loop. Left-handed bowline versus a right-handed bowline inside out. Doesn't necessarily matter, but it's better just for keeping the knot dressed up. If you make your overhand loop, you come out of the hole, and then you pass around the tree, the standing end, behind that from the same side that your loop is on. Go behind and then back through, and you'll see that you end up inside the loop with that tag end. If you were to, let's deconstruct this knot a little, if you were to come through the hole, cross over, then go around behind the tree, and then back through the hole, it's still a bowline, right? But now your tag end's on the outside of that loop. And that can be problematic from it getting hung up on things, but either way, it's still a bowline, okay? So that's the bowline loop, all right? The other loop we talked about is the perfection loop, sometimes called the fisherman's loop. All right, for this one, I'm gonna make a bite. I'll go toward the end. I'm gonna take a bite, hold that with my thumb. I'm gonna take the free end, I'm gonna go around once and around twice. And then, well, I can just lay it across. I actually don't have to go around. And then that loop that's over my thumb, I'm gonna reach down through the first loop I made, through that bite, and pull that part up through. And then as that tightens down, you'll see that I've made the perfection loop where I've trapped the tag end perpendicular to the running end, right? And it's caught between the two loops. There's a little X in the back. It's caught there. You can compare and contrast that with the bowline. Oh, that's that backwards bowline I said not to make. Let me fix it real quick. Slip around and then down through. All right, so there's lots of different ways to tie the bowline, lots of versions of the bowline. There are lots of different ways to tie the perfection loop or the fisherman's loop, okay? And this one has some advantages. You can see the bowline, if running in line with the standing end, that the bowline is kind of a, what would you say, tipped off to one side. So if this was the running line, you can see the loop's kind of off to the side. It will run in line, but then you get this little bend here in your standing end that might not serve your purposes. All right, so it's sort of off to one side. Whereas the perfection loop, or the fisherman's loop, runs right in line with the standing end, right? And that tag end is out perpendicular. Both those loops are great. Those are the first and second loop you should learn to tie. So you need a loop at the end of your rope. Very similar in that no matter how much tension they're under, they're easy to untie. The bowline, you turn over and you just pull that bend down to break the knot and it falls right apart. Same thing with the fisherman, only this time the bend is on the side that was facing me. I take that part that crosses over and I just bend that down. The knot collapses and comes out easy peasy no matter what. Now, here's the knot that I like the most, or the loop that I like the most because it's so easy to tie, and it also is easily broken after it's been under a lot of weight, and it's the knot that is probably the safest of the three basic loops. They all have different applications, but this one is the most stable, the safest, and the strongest, and it is probably the easiest to tie, and it's the only one of the three you would use in any life-saving encounter like rock climbing or any kind of arborist things to tie into your harness, and that is the, of course, figure eight loop. Several ways to tie the figure eight loop. I'm going to take a rather long bite of rope. I'm going to fold that into another bite, right? So a bite of rope is when the rope doubles back on itself like this, right? Without crossing over, so I'm not making a loop. I have a bite of rope. I take a long bite of rope, about a foot, loop of rope, bite, about a foot long, and then I'm going to make a second bite out of that. Okay. I take the folded end over and behind the standing end and then up through that loop. And I've made a figure of 8 loop. Okay? That figure of 8 loop is the strongest of the 3 knots. I think is the easiest to tie. And then I could clip my carabiner or my climbing harness in there. And then this long tag end, I would just tie that off with an overhand knot, kind of as a finishing knot to dress that and hold that down there. Now, those of you that have a Uncivilized Vitality cord kit will notice that our main ridgeline, the 36-foot piece of paracord, is tied with a permanent figure 8 loop and a stopper knot there. That way, by feel at night, you could tell the difference if this is my ridgeline versus an accessory cord. That's the figure 8 loop tied off. Right, no matter how much tension that's under, you can just break either here or here. It's a symmetrical knot. I can just fold that knot in half and peel that apart, or maybe use a marlin spike or a stick to wedge that back open. Right? So I make a big bite, fold the bite in half. I go around behind the standing end, come up and back through, and I've made that figure 8. Easiest knot to tie, life-saving loop, easy to tie. Now, if you have to tie the figure 8 around something, that's just takes a couple seconds longer, but it's just as easy. I'm gonna make a bite in my rope, just like I did before. I'm gonna go all the way around the standing end and then up through the loop. So I've made a figure 8 knot in my rope. Right? Now keep that figure 8 knot tied a little loosely. I go around whatever it is I want to tie. Let's say I'm just going to thread through there. Maybe this is through my harness or a carabiner or around something as a figure 8 sort of hitch. Now this is just a follow through figure 8. Now I just take my free end and I follow my figure 8 knot back through the path it's already taken. Come back around, tuck that through. I could have left a little more tail there, but now I tighten that up and you'll see I've tied the figure 8 loop around. Where's the other end? Around, right? Just as when I tied the figure 8 on a bite. Okay? So that's the figure 8 on a bite. And that's the figure 8 by passing through and then following it back through. Okay? So that's the figure 8 loop, the perfection loop, and the Bowline. We usually start people with the Bowline. It's got that nice little story from was it 1975 Jaws, when he was trying to teach the sheriff how to tie basic sailor knots, and he said the rabbit comes out of the hole, goes around the tree and back through the hole, and the guy kept messing it up. Then the shark came and ate everybody. The knot wasn't really the point of the movie. That's just where that comes from. I think the figure 8 is the better knot. I like it. It's symmetrical. It's one of the strongest knots. It's easy to tie, and it has so many different uses. So that's it. If you like those knot videos, leave us a thumbs up, buy me a coffee, hit share, subscribe, like, leave a comment. What are your 3 favorite loops? And what else would Rendell say right now? I think that's it.